Good morning, everybody. We're going to give it a couple minutes for people logging on, and we'll get started in just a few. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. I still see people logging on, so thank you for your patience. Thanks for joining. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to say good morning. Thanks for joining. My name is Jordan Lederman. I'm the sales director of a boutique condominium project that we are building in Fort Lauderdale as we speak, called 160 Marina Bay. This is another episode of a series of webinars that we do. Today's topic is a very important topic. Lots of talk about it. We're talking about estate planning update under the Biden tax plan. To help us discuss this issue, we do have the industry experts. We have Shawn Snyder, partner with Snyder & Snyder PA, a boutique estate planning firm. And we have Teague Lawrence, a practicing tax attorney, also co-developer for 160 Marina Bay. So Shawn and Teague, thank you very much for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jordan.
Of course. Before we get started and talk about this topic of taxes and estate planning, I want to go ahead and give a brief overview as the sponsor for today's webinar about 160 Marina Bay. To do so, let me get some visuals on my screen. So 160 Marina Bay is a boutique condominium project that we're building in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. 16 units. These units were really designed to feel like a single family home. They're almost 3,000 square feet. And being Fort Lauderdale, which is known as the Venice of the Americas, with over 175 navigable waterways, and also the yachting capital of the world, we do have a beautiful 14 boat slip marina in the back of our building. For those who are out of state and don't know Fort Lauderdale so well, Fort Lauderdale is a very sophisticated city, booming downtown, beautiful beaches, and again, it is a boater's paradise. Our project is located 1.4 miles to the heart of Fort Lauderdale Beach, and you can see where we're located. We're on an aisle called Isle of Venice Drive. We're right off of Las Olas, which is the main boulevard for Fort Lauderdale, and we're 1.4 miles directly to the heart of Fort Lauderdale Beach in one direction. To the other direction, we're 0.9 miles to everything downtown. Here you have your art galleries, your retail, your restaurants, your shopping, your bars, everything downtown. So we're the perfect blend of city living and beach living. And of course, Isle of Venice is very beautiful. We're facing east, so your view is beautiful, nothing obstructing your view. You're looking over the multi-million-dollar mansions of Fiesta Way in the Seven Isles. We're towards the far end of the aisle, so it's more exclusive. It's super easy to get your boat right in and out of the aisles. Use all the beautiful waterways that Fort Lauderdale is known for, and you can be out in the deep sea in about 20 to 25 minutes. I love to point out that Fort Lauderdale is the major city in the middle of the Tri-County area. So you have Miami about 30 minutes to the south and Palm Beach 30 minutes to the north. So we are very central. A lot of our buyers so far for the project moved down here because their companies either moved to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or Palm Beach, but they chose to live in Fort Lauderdale because of how central it is. Here's a beautiful aerial view just showing where our project's located. Again, downtown starts about right here, 0.9 miles, and then the beach, 1.4 miles. And you can see the beautiful waterways. Here you have a $1 billion convention center being built as we speak. also the third busiest cruise port in the country. The growth of Fort Lauderdale is phenomenal. You have projects such as the Kushner's 4-tower project already approved. The city of Fort Lauderdale is working with Elon Musk's Boring Company to dig a tunnel from downtown to the beaches. A lot of growth happening in Fort Lauderdale. The mayor, the city officials, they're very pro-business and pro-people moving to the city. And that's why in the last 10 years, we've seen a 41% population growth here. Going back to our building, it's beautiful, modern design, but still has that sophisticated look that Fort Lauderdale is known for. The basic rundown is 16 units. We have 5 levels. The units are floors 2 through 5. That's only 4 units per floor. And we have 2 semi-private elevators. So that's 8 units sharing 1 elevator. Again, this project really gives you that single family home feeling. We will have a beautiful pool along the marina, lounge chairs, gazebo with a barbecue area, cabanas, fire pit, everything you need in this boutique building. The building that we are delivering, these units are completely state-of-the-art. The technology we're putting in here, complete smart home. You can control your lighting, your temperature. You can open your front door, pre-wired for window shades and audio, all through voice control, through an app on your phone, or through one of the keypads or touch panels that we're putting throughout the unit. And what we're delivering is a completely turnkey product. So we have beautiful large tile Italian porcelain floors going all throughout the unit, including the terrace, massive 10-foot ceilings, floor to ceiling windows. This is an actual rendering shot or an actual photograph of what the view looks like. You can see how facing east, you have nothing obstructing your view. You're overlooking the beautiful lush landscaping of these multi-million-dollar mansions across the waterway. Our terraces are 11 feet in depth. We made them large enough for an outdoor couch area or an outdoor dining table. Again, this is an actual photograph of the view. All terrace doors are double panel bifold opening. So you have this beautiful, nice wide opening instead of just one panel. Kitchens are U-shaped, chef inspired. We have a huge 9.5-foot island going in. All Italian cabinets, all high-end appliances, Wolf, Miele, and Sub-Zero. All the plumbing fixtures going throughout the unit are all Hansgrohe and Newport brass. Everything is top-notch going into this product. We're giving a beautiful dining area outside of the kitchen with a full-size wet bar that you can see better in this rendering. And again, you can see from the rendering just how large our units actually are. Again, giving you that single-family home feel instead of a cookie-cutter condo unit. In the bedrooms, we're doing a hand-scraped wide plank oak wood. Both master bedrooms will have terrace access. And then our bathrooms are spa-inspired. Double vanity, floating tub. All the doors going throughout the property will be Italian doors. In the corner units, we're doing a floating tub in front of the window. And our floor plans, they were very strategically thought of to give that single-family home feeling. We have an elevator that opens into a private vestibule. From there, you go into the foyer. Then you have your huge open concept with the kitchen, dining, and family room. And we created 2 different hallways to essentially give 2 different wings of the unit. Down one wing is the entire master suite with 2 huge walk-in closets. Down the other wing, you pass your powder room, and then 2 really good-sized bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms and their own closets. These corner units are 2,875 square feet interior, plus you have over 550 square feet of terrace space. The building is, our price ranges, they do start at 2.2 and they go up to about 2.546. We have 1 penthouse remaining. We're about 50% sold out, but we still are in a very bottom, low level pricing, which we do expect to be increasing soon based on the amount of demand and sales recently. The expected completion for the project is about September of next year, so just about 10 months away, and we are moving super fast at the site. You can see the construction. We're already on the 2nd floor, and it's looking really nice. We do have a beautiful sales gallery for anybody in town. We're located right on Las Olas, or you can go to our website, 160 Marina Bay, or call the office and speak to me or one of my sales associates, but it really is a beautiful project for anybody interested. For brokers, we are cooperating with out-of-state and in-state brokers. It's a very attractive commission structure, so definitely reach out to us for more information. And with that being said, I do want to turn it over to Shawn and Teague and tell you all about estate planning under the new administration, what's changed, what we can expect to change. And Shawn will kick it off from here. It's a very hot topic. I know a lot of people move to Florida and buy properties for tax reasons. So Shawn, I'll give you the floor and let you take it away.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Good morning, everybody. As Jordan mentioned, we have a tremendous amount of immigration from the northern states into Florida right now. It's probably one of the single biggest influx of new clients, of new residents that I've seen in my 20 years of practicing estate planning down here. Part of it has to do with the beautiful weather. Part of it has to do with all the business growth that's happening here. A lot of Fortune 500 companies opening significant office complexes here, and so it's really kind of a booming area. And for all those reasons, not just tax reasons, we really are seeing that influx of professional executive level people. Today we're going to talk about estate planning and what are we seeing under the Biden tax law. I think to kind of understand where we are today and where we may be going over the next 2 months, as well as the next 2 or 3 years, we actually got to go back in time a little bit, back to 2018. 2018 was when President Trump first came into his presidency with a new Congress, and one of the first things that they did is they put into place a new set of tax bills. That was very far-reaching on both the income tax side as well as the estate tax side. Unfortunately, though, it does expire January 1st, 2026. So we're a couple years into this now. We have a couple years to go, and if Congress doesn't do anything, then there's an automatic sunsetting of the majority of that 2018 tax bill, which also includes the bulk of what we're going to talk about today. So what was the major changes we saw in 2018 when it comes to the estate and gift tax side? It was essentially a doubling of the estate tax exemption at the federal level from roughly $5.5 million to roughly $11 million. Today, with the indexing for inflation, that has gone all the way up to $11.7 million. So that is the federal estate tax limits. As anyone who's looking at Florida as potentially being a resident, we have no state income tax. We also have no state estate tax or inheritance tax. So we are a very tax friendly state here. And so what we're going to be talking about today really is federal related. It's not really state related because we don't have a state income tax or a state inheritance tax that we have to be concerned about. So today, here we are a couple years later, as we sit here today, we have an estate tax exemption equal to $11.7 million. That is indexed for inflation every year until 2026. And on January 1st, 2026, absent some act of Congress, and that's right, that's step below act of God here, that is going to go back to where we were in 2017, which would be roughly with the index for inflation around $6 million before we have to generate an estate tax. So it's highly, highly likely between today and 2026, we'll have some new tax law that will kick that can down the road. But the question for us for discussion today is when will that happen and what will it look like when they do kick that estate tax can? So we started our journey today back in 2018. Let's go forward in time to March of this year, so March 2021. A group of Republican senators came forward with a proposed tax bill, which completely eliminated the estate tax at the federal level indefinitely into the future. And unfortunately, we all kind of chuckled a little bit and said, no chance that that's going to happen. But within a week or so, Senators Warren and Senator Sanders came out with their competing tax bill, which really actually set my industry on fire, which was that we're going to repeal the current estate tax limits, go back to a flat $3.5 million. And once we crossed over that $3.5 million threshold, anything above that would be taxed on a sliding scale that peaked out around 75 to 77%, depending on which article you read. Significant change from where we are today. And just about anybody who had significant wealth fell out of their chair and said, oh my goodness, we gotta change everything we've done and do some new estate planning before these new laws go into play. Fortunately, as we got out of March into April and May, it seemed like that estate tax fire was partially extinguished. And we wound up with President Biden in May of 2021 releasing what he thought would be an appropriate set of tax reforms. And noticeably absent from that was anything having to do with the estate tax. He was completely silent on it. And that was actually kind of a welcome relief for estate planners like myself. However, the one thing he really did focus on, and he actually doubled down on, was a repeal of what's often referred to as the stepped up basis. It's essentially the ability for a decedent, when they pass away, to wipe away all built-in capital gains or, unfortunately, capital losses on their asset holdings. And essentially what this does is allows heirs to inherit assets with no income tax liability for those built-in gains or losses. And so a repeal of the stepped up basis would essentially mean that new assets that were transferred due to a client's passing would retain their, at worst, I should say, or I'm sorry, at best, would retain their built-in capital gains. At worst, there were actually some proposals stating that we were going to accelerate the recognition of those gains and actually charge a capital gains tax on those built-in capital gains at the time of death. That was pretty serious. And so what happened after President Biden came forward with that framework? Absolutely nothing. June, July, August rolled around. It's crickets in the estate tax side of things. And then lo and behold, on September 13th, the chairman of the House and Ways Committee came forward and said, we have a new framework that we're going to push for. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to push it through to a bill that's going to be on the House floor for vote this week. And everybody looked and said, if they can put a bill on the House floor, it's going to pass. Why is it going to pass the House? Because they have a significant majority in the House, and that no matter what they put forward, they should have the backing of the votes. Now, they may not have the votes in the Senate, but they should have the votes on the House floor. Well, that was September 13th. A week went by, 2 weeks went by, a month went by, 2 weeks went by. I'm sorry, 2 months went by, and absolutely nothing happened. There was so much infighting within the parties and even within the Democratic caucus that they couldn't agree on what should be or not be in that plan. And that was actually something that was a positive for us, because the further we went into the future, the less likely it was that we were going to see major changes, especially major retroactive changes for 2021. Fortunately, October 28th rolls around right before Halloween. President Biden gave us an early Halloween present, and he released what is now being referred to as the Biden Build Back Better plan. You've probably heard about that in the news. And it was essentially a set of framework, not only for some social spending, but also for taxation purposes. And that framework was immediately overlaid on top of the House's framework that they had released back on September 13th to basically merge the two bills, including the new updated tax proposals for President Biden. So there were several things that were noticeably absent. And when I say several things, pretty much anything estate and gift tax related that had been talked about in March by Senators Warren and Senator Biden, Senator Sanders and Senators Warren, by President Biden in May of this year, in August or September, all the different talking heads that had said, this is what we would like to see in the tax reform, it was all gone. What they focused on in the Biden Build Back Better plan was really a set of income tax revenue generators, and they completely took everything estate tax related off the table. So great news for our wealthy clients that live here in South Florida. Now they have no state level estate tax. And the estate tax at the federal level seems to be relatively stagnant with some small indexing for inflation through 2026. And that gives us, actually 2026 gives us two different congressional makeups, one at the midterm election next year, as well as the full presidential election 3 years from now. So we've actually got two different shots at having a tax-friendly congressional makeup before we get to 2026. And in my opinion, there's no doubt that we will not have any type of retroactivity happen in 2026. There will be an affirmative plan agreed on by Congress at some point before then. So if we're not too worried about the estate tax changing, well, what are we doing on the estate planning side? And before I start talking about 2 or 3 things that my clients are doing, and they're doing a lot of it right now, I just want to mention the income tax side of the the Biden Build Back Better plan.
Shawn, let me just interject for one second. I mentioned at the beginning, just because this is very informative information. There's a lot of it. If anyone has any questions, we do have a chat box or a Q&A box. You can type in there. I'll try to moderate the questions, or Shawn can answer directly. But I did want to mention that there's a chat and Q&A box at the bottom of your screen for any questions. All right, Shawn, sorry about that.
All right, no worries, Jordan. So I just wanted to mention, I'm not really going to focus on the income tax side of things. Today's presentation really is estate tax driven. It's estate planning driven. There are very, very significant income tax changes, both on the capital gain side, the SALT deduction, which I know is very important for many clients that are up in the high tax states. There's certainly millionaires taxes and billionaires taxes. Those are the things that are actually in flux as we sit here today. The Biden Build Back Better plan has not been passed, although they passed the infrastructure bill, a week and a half ago. They've not passed this revenue bill at this point. And I do think that we may see some changes on the income tax side before that's finalized. So that may be something that we can come back and do another presentation on, about what makes it into the final bill and what are the planning opportunities for the balance of this year or next year, once we actually know where those income tax rates, those income tax thresholds are going to settle out. So back to what are we doing now? There was a lot of fear going back, starting at the election, when President Biden won the election with a strong Democratic House majority. There was a lot of fear that the estate tax was going to be on the chopping block. And so for the last year or so, we've been working with our clients to do a very, very considerable amount of wealth transfer. We're taking advantage of the valuations of businesses, valuations of closely held pockets of assets that may have been depressed because of the effects of the coronavirus. And so we have assets that historically may have been worth 100 units, and now they're worth 60 or 70 units because of the historical valuations, the historical cash flows that we can look back at and balance our appraisals on. So we're moving things at a discount right now, although the businesses seem to be coming back in full force. So we're giving away assets, we're selling assets, and one of the tools that we're using as part of those transactions is often referred to as a SLAT. It's an acronym, SLAT, which stands for Spousal Lifetime Access Trust. And let's imagine Teague and I were married. I could give something to him. I could take my 11.7 million of assets, whether that's a depressed value of a business, whether it's real estate that's been appraised, whether it's stocks and bonds. I can turn around and give him my 11.7 million of estate tax exemption away today, but I put it in a trust for his benefit, which he can benefit from as the trustee, as a beneficiary. His kids can benefit from it. And oftentimes when we do something for one spouse, that spouse turns around and does something somewhat similar. I don't want to call it reciprocal. That's a bad tax term. So these are not reciprocal trusts, but oftentimes there may be something that the spouse does back for the other spouse. And so just like I may use my 11.7 million of exemption to give something in trust for Teague, he could turn around and do something in reverse for me.
Shawn, you said something interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt. So with that 11 million that you're transferring, just back up a few steps. You said that maybe the people are in possession of assets that are currently discounted due to COVID or something like that. So you're really using that drop in asset value to the advantage to the client. Probably some of those assets are going to come back as this situation resolves itself. But at the present value, they're trading at a discount, if you will, or they're going to be valued at a discount. So you move those assets. Is that basically one of your main strategies right now?
It is. We're looking for arbitrages. We're looking for something that we feel has a strong value in the future, but because of something industry specific, COVID specific, something that we can point a finger at and say it's not as worth as much today, or really in the heart of things in 2020 when it was really dire, we were looking at potential depression, in our economy. We were able to move a lot of things. A good example is I work with a client who has a large hotel on Hollywood Beach. Pre-pandemic, very, very profitable business. Come July of 2020, they've been shut down for several months. They're hemorrhaging cash because they got no cash flow coming in, but they got to keep the lights on, the air conditioning on, and the maintenance people there, and the property taxes. It's not looking good. And it's not that they had any indication of going bankrupt. but now the cash flow on that business looks really well, and no one's out there spending $100 million or $200 million to buy a hotel that's hemorrhaging money in the middle of a pandemic. And so we were able to take advantage of that arbitrage, get an appraisal that said it was worth a lot less than it would have been pre-pandemic, and probably a lot less than it'll be worth this year or next year. And we're able to sell or transfer those types of interests because of that arbitrage. To Jordan's point a moment ago, investments in real estate, especially when we can get in at a ground level. I know, Jordan, you had mentioned that right now things are very attractively priced on the Marina Bay project. Something like that could go in where we know that once it's sold out, there's going to be an immediate increase in the value of those units. That's an arbitrage that we would be looking for on a second home, a primary residence, things like that.
It's really so you really get a bump just by coming out of COVID. You know, your valuation is artificially low, so to speak, and now it's going to revert back to probably what it was. But in the meantime, you get an opportunity to transfer that asset at a discount.
Absolutely. And the piece that has to go along with that valuation arbitrage is that I can't turn around and give that asset to my spouse just because it would make it includable in their estate, and they're going to have to pay estate tax on it down the road. So enter that SLAT document, that spousal lifetime access trust, because it allows me to give that asset, that depressed asset, to a trust that is outside of my estate. I don't retain any benefit or control, so not my money anymore, nor is it included in the estate of my spouse. And so if that 11.7 million over the next 20 or 30 years grows to be worth 20 or 30 million dollars, we've now leveraged the $11.7 million of estate tax exemption to get 20 or 30 million dollars of assets ultimately out of our estate. And so this is a tool that we get immediate benefit from based on the valuation arbitrages, but we get much longer term value out of this as well, because we're pushing appreciation of assets outside of our estate. So that SLAT transaction, we're probably doing 2 or 3 of those a week. I would say pre-pandemic, pre-20, 2020, we were maybe doing, in that amount in a month. So certainly it has accelerated the transfer of wealth, with the fear that Congress may take away the 11.7 million of exemption. Let's take a step back for just a minute, and let's just assume that something crazy happens, something unexpected happens, and Congress does turn around and reduce the estate tax exemption from 11.7 back to the $6 million number, as was proposed back on September 13th. What happens if we've made a gift in 2020, if we made a gift in 2021? And the answer is actually very clear now. It's the first time it's been clear in my whole career. There is a revenue ruling out there that says that if we use the estate tax exemption in a tax year where we were allowed to, and that at some point in the future, such as 2026, where the exemption reverts back to a lower number, there is no recognition of any additional gains, taxes, gift taxes. There is no tax consequence. So that's a positive thing for us, that we can do this planning without any fear of what might happen tomorrow or what might happen next year or 2026.
So that revenue ruling is preventing the clawback, basically.
Yeah, that's correct. And for the last 18 years of my career, we were always fearful of what could happen with a clawback. We now have certainty post 2018 that we don't have to worry about that anymore. So we can move forward with these transactions with relative certainty as to their effectiveness, with very little fear of some type of future tax law changing or tax law changes coming back and impacting these transactions.
Shawn, we do have a question related to the topic you're talking about now, but it's from, the question is, how can you use a SLAT of selling a high net worth property over 25 million that's in a trust, not in the estate of a spouse?
All right, so I'm going to interpret what I think that question's going on, and if I miss the root of the question, please update the question. I'd be more than happy to talk about it. SLATs generally have a very unique income tax characteristic to them. They're what we call grantor trusts. Without boring you on grantor trusts too much, the IRS says that if an irrevocable trust, which a SLAT is an irrevocable trust, if it has one of these characteristics, there is a penalty, and I want to put that in air quotes. There is a penalty to the person who created the trust with those characteristics, and that penalty is that they have to pay the income tax liability of any transactions that happen with the trust asset. So if I created a trust for Teague And let's imagine that I retain the ability to swap assets in and out of the trust. So he puts maybe we initially gift the Marina Bay property into the trust. And one day I say, you know what, I want to retire there. I want that in my own personal name as my residence. And let's just imagine at that point, it's worth 10 million bucks. I put 10 million of cash into the trust and I can unilaterally take back out that piece of property, put the property in my name. That ability as grantor and creator of the trust to swap assets at will of equivalent value is one of those characteristics that triggers grantor trust status. So what does that do for us? Well, if down the road, instead of me taking the property out, Teague as trustee sells that property for 10 million. He bought it for 2.5, or maybe I bought it for 2.5, the trust sells it for 10. That $7.5 million of capital gains is going to be recognized at my level as the grantor of the trust. So the fact that we have capital gains or some type of income inside of a SLAT doesn't hurt us or help us because the grantor trust characteristic allows that trust to basically be a conduit that puts all the tax liability back on me as if I was the one who originally sold the property. However, the trust gets to keep the 10 million and they don't have to pay any tax on that. What does that do? That allows that trust to grow faster when it's not paying its income tax on its taxable transactions. Rather, it's almost like I'm making an additional gift to the grantor trust because I'm paying the tax liability for them. And the IRS says that that is not a deemed gift, doesn't use any of my estate tax exemption, gift tax, or any other tax consequences. So to the question for Holly, how would I use a SLAT in selling a high net worth property over 25 million that's in a trust, not in the estate of a spouse? The answer is we love selling them in SLATs because it essentially allows the trust to keep all of the proceeds from the sale while the grantor of the trust that created the trust pays the tax liability. And so if we were able to sell a property for 25 million, that's awesome. It's, the trust gets to keep all 25 million. So Holly, if that answers your question, I'll move on. If not, feel free to re-ask the question and I'll come back to it in a minute. So Teague, Jordan, anything before I move on with some of the other tools?
I will say that we did have a couple questions. We will be posting this webinar for those of you asking on our 160 Marina Bay YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube, type in 160 Marina Bay, you will see all of our webinars, including this one should be up in about 48 hours or so. But replay it, as much as you want because it'll be posted.
And I would just add to that, if any of you do have clients that are interested in, estate planning or complex planning, please reach out to Shawn. He's excellent. He's a very highly rated attorney. I have the highest regard for his work and his practice and his ethics. So I would honestly encourage anyone to reach out to Shawn if you have specific questions. With that, go ahead, Shawn.
All right, thanks, Teague, for that shameless plug. Back to Holly's question: can the trust use the proceeds of the sale? The answer is absolutely. So if the SLAT trust has 25 million of sales proceeds, it can invest in a new business, a new property, stocks, bonds, whatever it needs to. So SLATs are built to be agnostic when it comes to what types of assets that they hold. And so it's really just almost like a holding entity that allows those assets to be invested and reinvested outside of the grantor's estate, as well as outside the beneficiary's estate. Florida, just as a side note, has very progressive trust laws. One of those being that we can hold wealth here in Florida for up to 360 years. So if I created something for Teague could benefit from the rest of his life for those assets. And when he passes away, it could pass on to his kids. His kids could use those assets for life and pass on to their kids, meaning Teague's grandkids. And it can go on from generation to generation, absent any type of an estate tax for 360 years. Essentially, the money just rolls from generation to generation to generation, with each successive generation taking control and benefiting from that money, unless it's consumed at some point. So very, very beneficial trust structure, not just to avoid estate tax from generation 1 to generation 2, but actually for multiple generation planning, which is really what SLATs are for wealthy families looking to move wealth for multiple generations. Florida also is a very creditor protected state. So these trusts are creditor protected, meaning that if he gets sued, divorced, bankrupt, anything happens, no one can touch that trust. Same thing with the next generation or the generation after that. So these trusts are creating estate tax benefited money. It's creditor protected money as well for multiple generations. And that's what we do, working with our significant families, is to create these structures to be able to create management tools for multiple generations from both tax as well as an asset protection benefit. Let's see, I think that's it on the questions for right now. So let me get back to something I mentioned that President Biden had said. He had said that he would like to repeal the stepped up basis. That was one of those things that is absent from his October 28th, the Biden Build Back Better plan, is that there is no repeal of that, meaning that we can retain our stepped up basis. That's a huge benefit, regardless of whether you're a Florida resident or someplace else. That is a great tax benefit that was protected as part of the October plan.
Shawn, just so everyone understands, you're talking about someone passes away, assets are valued on date of death, and then you, under the law, you're able to claim a step up in basis.
That's correct.
The assets, date of death valuation.
Correct. So not only does the current bill protect the estate tax exemption, but it also protects the stepped up basis at death as well. So that has not been impacted in any way moving forward, at least through 2026.
Thank you.
There was another issue that, and this is one that I do want to spend a little bit of time on. I know we're getting close to the end of our time. Back in 2017, prior to the election where President Trump was elected as president, the IRS was moving forward with a series of tax regulations that were going to significantly impact or eliminate the valuation discounts applicable to closely held businesses. If I had a closely held business and I wanted to sell Jordan 10% of my business, chances are other people would not come in and pay me 10% or would pay 10% of what the fair market value of the assets are for the underlying business, because it's a non-voting, non-controlling, non-marketable interest because it's closely held. And so estate planners like myself often took anywhere from a 15 to, if you were really aggressive, maybe 40% discount on the net asset value when we transferred slivers of a closely held business. And the IRS felt that was being a little bit too much of a tax hog, and they were going to slaughter us on that. They put into place some proposed regulations. They put it out for public comment a couple times, rewrote it, and they were ready to implement that when President Trump was elected. And one of the first things President Trump did is he made it be known that he was not going to allow those regulations to be enacted. But now they've been sitting out there now for 5 years or so. And that was something that was part of the September 13th framework that the House Ways and Means Committee had proposed, was that they wanted to go ahead and enact what sometimes can be referred to as the 2100 or 2900 regulations. That concerned us because to the extent that we were shifting an interest in a closely held business, partnerships, LLCs, things like that, we had always liked those valuation discounts for arbitrage purposes. And it seemed that that was going to go into effect beginning on the date of enactment of the new tax law. So if President Biden signed it today, all of those valuation discount exceptions and restrictions would go into effect immediately. So that was part of what was driving us the last 2 or 3 months, was a race to transfer closely held businesses while we could still take a valuation discount on them. Fortunately, October 28th, when we looked at the new tax bill, that was also out of the tax bill, meaning that there doesn't seem to be anything imminent eliminating our closely held business deductions or discounts. With that said, I'm counseling my clients that if President Trump can stop that, that probably President Biden can reenact those regulations and can push to have those pushed through. So I would say that I believe in the next year to 18 months, we probably will see those regulations pop back up and get enacted through the Treasury Department. So what does that mean? That means if I have clients, or you have clients, or you are a client that has a closely held business, I think time is of the essence over the next year to begin going ahead and looking for opportunities, looking for arbitrages to transfer those while we can still take that 15 to 40% discount on the net asset value. So whether it's a gift to the kids, a sale to the kids, whether it's a sale to a slat or a gift to a slat, use those arbitrages right now while they still exist. I don't think it'll make it into the final Biden Build Back Better or Build Back Better bill, but I do think it'll probably be on the horizon for other tax bills to come out in the next year or so.
That's great advice.
So
Because
with
we have
that,
a window.
Tiga, I'll turn it over for you. I know you do a lot of tax compliance work. I'm more on the planning side. You're more on the compliance side. Maybe I'll turn it over to you to take a few minutes and talk about what you're seeing on the compliance side in this area.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for being here on behalf of my partners. This is such a hot topic right now. Tax is always sort of trending different ways, and you're in the hot area right now, or you have been for the past year. What's going on in my world? I do all federal compliance work, non-compliant foreign accounts, controversy work, that sort of thing. And the main thing that you're seeing with the new proposal is that the IRS is looking for additional funding of about $80 billion over the next 10 years. And the primary objective there is to sort of jumpstart enforcement as well as really to jumpstart enforcement and customer service and a lot of other areas that the IRS is currently having problems with. But the real focus is on revenue generation and targeting those with the assets, more so than the people without the assets. They're going after the more high net worth and the people that are doing the complex planning and things like that. So that's what's going on in the enforcement world. So what does that mean? You're probably going to see, if they get what they want, you're going to see the number of revenue agents double. You're going to see a substantial increase in the number of audits out there. And within that world, what I always tell my clients is just make sure that whatever you do, you can always withstand inspection. So, really for the higher net worth group, the most important thing that you need to understand is that, we've been in an all-time low, I would say, in terms of enforcement, IRS enforcement over the past, call it the past decade. But you're seeing the push right now to sort of, ramp up and get back to the way that the IRS used to be, which was, increase the number of audits and specifically the audits on the wealthy. So with that being said, I don't want to get into that world too much. We'll save that for another webinar, but I want to thank everyone for being here. And most importantly, I want to talk for a minute about this beautiful project behind me. This project has been very, very, very personal for me, and I get very excited. I was 30 years old and I had moved back from LA. I was out there working for Deloitte & Touche after I finished school, and I moved back because I really wanted a better lifestyle. I was tired of commuting back and forth to downtown Los Angeles and all that nonsense. And I went back to Fort Lauderdale, and I can truly tell you that I've lived in a lot of places, but it's the most beautiful city that you could probably live in, at least that I've lived in. It's better than New York. It's better than LA. It's better than a lot of these other cities that seemingly have much more to offer. But in reality, there's so much going on in Fort Lauderdale right now that it's really for the people that know what's going on. It's the yachting capital of the world. It's the Venice of the United States. I could go on and on and on with all the new infrastructure. We had the mayor of Fort Lauderdale on a few months ago, and it really is a business-friendly environment. This project, this location is actually, I found a little apartment, and at this very location, that's our development site, an old 2-story Florida building. And I went from living in LA with like a lifestyle of, commuting and downtown and just a lot of, what would you say, just not a great way to live. And I end up in Fort Lauderdale with the water in my backyard. I'm a mile from the beach. I'm a mile from my office in downtown Fort Lauderdale. I'm less than a mile from all the bars and restaurants and everything. it's just a beautiful, beautiful place to live. And specifically on this island, what is so unique about our development site is that we're on the north side of the island. So when you think about being in the center of a city like Fort Lauderdale, which is like a medium-sized city, it's hard to imagine that you could be in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, get out of your car, and be in a perfectly tranquil environment, almost like you're living on an island. It's like you're in another world. So what I always say with our project is you can be completely connected or you can be completely disconnected. And what I mean by that is we have focused on the highest level of technology. We have set our property up so that you can be connected anywhere. You can be sitting on your boat and be connected. You could be at the pool and be connected, but not just connected, really connected with high-speed access, all the luxuries that technology in and of itself can provide. It's just a real convenience factor. We've tried to build this in a way that if we were to live there ourselves, we would be happy. So we've scrutinized every detail. And more importantly, for those that are really knowledgeable with construction, what we've really done is scrutinized our subs. We're scrutinizing the people that are building the property. We have scrutinized our subs to really the nth degree, interviewed them personally. The developers, imagine you're calling in all the subs to come in and interview to work with the GC, and ultimately we're telling the GC, hey, we like this guy, or maybe this one wasn't right. So we have really gone to extremes to make a beautiful product. Everything that you can ask for is right there. The environment, what we've tried to model this after is sort of like a Four Seasons. We wanted you to feel the luxury when you walk into the unit. So it's not your typical, cookie cutter 16 unit building. When you walk in, you're going to see the finishes. You're going to see the detail. You're going to see, the high end appliances. You're going to see the chef inspired high ceilings. You're going to see all of those details with the finishes and everything else that's there. We've really, really, really scrutinized every detail, down from the private marinas to the semi-private elevators. We're really proud of this property. And if we had to sum it up in 3 words, it would be location, luxury, and lifestyle. The lifestyle is second to none. When you live here, it's just a really unique way to live. Everything that you can ask for is literally minutes away, and you're sitting in the heart of a beautiful city in perfect tranquility in your backyard. And you want to get on your boat, you're on your boat. You want to go to dinner, you take the boat to dinner. You want to go fishing, you do whatever it is that works for you, whether it be the beach, the evening lifestyle, or the business lifestyle. And then on top of it all, you have the airport 10 minutes away. And it's not just any airport. It's like 50 times better than flying into Miami. So Fort Lauderdale Airport, I love going to Fort Lauderdale Airport. I would rather drive from Miami Beach to get to Fort Lauderdale Airport than to drive 7 minutes and travel out of the Miami airport. And the reason is I just know it's an easier day. So with the Bright Line and all of the high-speed train access, you could be from Fort Lauderdale to downtown Miami in 45 minutes to catch a Heat game if you wanted to. I mean, Fort Lauderdale is just an amazing place. If your clients haven't been there, I would encourage you to have them check it out. If they're checking out anywhere in South Florida, it's really a no-brainer. There's so much more value here than the other cities, and there's so much going on, and it's only going to get better. With that, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Shawn and Jordan. Jordan, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I really appreciate everyone being here today.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, T. Thank you, Shawn. Any last minute questions, feel free to type in. Once again, we will be posting this webinar on 160 Marina Bay's YouTube. You can just type in 160 Marina Bay on YouTube and see all of our webinars. This one should be up in about 48 hours. Everyone who attended will also be getting a thank you email. You'll get more information about 160 Marina Bay and Shawn. But if you do want to contact Shawn, check out snyderlawpa.com, or you can call his office at 954-475-1139, extension 205. For more information on 160 Marina Bay, go to 160marinabay.com, or you can call us here at the Sales Gallery, 954-939-0440. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining. Shawn and Teague, thank you again as well. And everyone have a terrific week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.